Hale had spent years hiding from the noise of the universe. Outpost 12, a forgotten refueling station drifting on the edge of the outer trade routes, became the one place where silence finally lived with him. The station was old and slow, its lights flickering like tired candles, and its metal corridors carried the soft hum of aging generators. Most travelers passed by without stopping, and those who did only stayed long enough to refuel and vanish again into the stars. For that was perfect. He didn't crave attention, he didn't want questions, he only wanted peace. He once had a life full of people, full of orders, full of fire and war. But that life had taken things from him, friends, hopes, the version of himself he once believed in. Now he woke each cycle with a cup of warm tea in his hands, watching the swirling nebula outside the station window. The sight always brought him both comfort and pain. Comfort because it was beautiful, pain because he had seen those same colors through smoke and gunfire too many times. Worked as a mechanic for passing ships. He patched hulls, fixed broken engines, and cleaned out messy fuel lines. His hands were rough by burns and old wounds, but he worked quietly, patiently, like a man trying to rebuild something inside himself with every bolt he tightened. Most cycles, he didn't speak more than a handful of words to anyone. So when the alarm sounded that day and a tiny, damaged vessel appeared near docking port 3, he felt something unusual stir in his chest, unease. Ships that small usually didn't travel this far out. They certainly didn't arrive shaking like they were about to fall apart. Rushed to the dock expecting to see a wounded smuggler or a desperate trader. He had seen enough of them to read fear in their eyes before they even stepped out of their cockpit. But the moment the hatch opened, his breath caught in his throat. A small alien stumbled forward, child-sized, trembling, glowing faint blue like moonlight trapped in water. Their eyes were huge, shining softly, filled with fear so deep it felt old. Their limbs were thin and delicate, and their breathing was sharp, unsteady. Dropped to one knee without even thinking. "Hey," he said gently, voice soft like he was speaking to a frightened animal. "It's okay, you're safe here." The little alien blinked as if trying to understand his words. Their translator device was cracked, sending out faint sparks. When they tried to speak, the words broke apart, glitching in the air. "Please help." Those two words were enough. Wrapped a thermal blanket around the tiny being and lifted them into his arms. They were cold, too cold. The way they clung to him with their small fingers made his heart tighten. He carried them into the station's warmth, placing them on the medical bench he rarely used. "What happened to you?" he asked softly, trying not to frighten them. The alien shivered and tried again. "Pirates follow me." His jaw clenched. Space pirates were reckless, cruel, and desperate. But why would they chase a child? What could this small, frightened creature possibly have that pirates wanted? He didn't ask more, not yet. The child needed safety first. Worked quickly, he gave them warm broth, cleaned their bruises, and adjusted the damaged translator chip with delicate precision. As he worked, the child watched him with wide, glowing eyes, eyes that seemed to study not his face but his heart. "You are kind," they finally whispered. Paused. No one had said that to him in years. Maybe he didn't deserve it, maybe he once did. But the soft truth in the alien's voice made something inside him shift, something he thought had died long ago. His smile came slowly. "I just do what I can." But the moment was fragile. The child's hands trembled. Their voice was barely a breath as they spoke again. "They want me, they will come." Felt the words like a warning, sliding into the air between them. He didn't know who the child was. He didn't know why pirates hunted them. He didn't know the danger now crawling toward his quiet little life. But as he looked at the scared blue glow in the child's eyes, he knew only one thing. He would protect them. Even if it meant the silence he loved would be destroyed forever. Sat beside the little alien, watching their glowing blue skin flicker in the soft light of the stations. He had wrapped them in the warm blanket he always kept for emergencies, but the trembling did not stop. Every now and then the child would shiver, curling their small body as if trying to disappear into themselves. Could feel a strange mix of fear and sorrow rising inside him. He had seen terror before, yes, but never like this. This was raw, pure, a fear that had nothing to do with him and everything to do with the cruel world out there. The translator sparkled faintly, flickering in and out, until the small voice finally came through in broken, hesitant words. Name El Luma, the child whispered. Please help. His heart tightened. Luma. The name sounded soft, fragile, like glass that could shatter at the slightest touch. He leaned closer, trying to offer comfort, though he knew words alone were not enough. He set his hand lightly on their small arm. You're safe here, Luma, he said. I won't let anyone hurt you. The child looked at him, wide eyes reflecting fear and something else, something could not yet name. It was awe, trust, a faint flicker of hope that perhaps the universe had not abandoned them completely. And for the first time in a long while felt that spark too, the feeling that maybe he had not been abandoned either. Luma tried to speak again, but their words were broken, stuttering through the translator. Space pirates chasing me. Felt a cold knot in his stomach. Space pirates, ruthless, bloodthirsty marauders who took what they wanted without mercy, and they were chasing this small, trembling creature. Something inside him tightened like steel. He had fought wars, seen cities burn, watched people die. But this was different. This was a child, someone who had done nothing but exist, and yet the universe seemed determined to punish them. He poured a small cup of broth, letting the steam curl gently around Luma's glowing form. He held it to their lips and they drank slowly, eyes still wide with caution. Their hands were small and cold, but as they wrapped them around the cup, they did not pull away. For a moment, allowed himself to hope. Maybe he could protect this child. Maybe he could do something right in a universe that had taken so much from him. You are kind, Luma said again, their voice trembling, different from others. Smiled faintly, though it was tinged with sadness. Kindness is easy, he said. The hard part is living with the days you weren't kind and hoping it wasn't too late. He had said that to himself many times in his darker days, but now he spoke it aloud to Luma. Perhaps the words could carry some weight, some warmth to ease the fear in their tiny heart. For a while they sat in silence, watched Luma's glowing skin pulse softly, almost like a heartbeat he could feel in the quiet of the room. He wondered about their life, about where they had come from, about the things they had seen. And though he did not know the answers, he promised himself silently, whatever came, he would not let harm touch this child under his care. Minutes later, Luma's voice broke the silence again, soft and hesitant. They will come, they said, they will not stop. His eyes narrowed, the fear in their voice was not imagined. This child had already faced the darkness of the universe and had survived. If anyone was going to fight for them now, it had to be him. The quiet, lonely human who had thought his life meant nothing suddenly felt a weight he could not ignore. I don't know why they are after you, he admitted, but I do know this, I will not let them take you, not now, not ever. Luma's eyes glimmered brighter and a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched their lips. It was the first sign of trust, of relief, of hope, and felt something stir deep inside him, a protective, unshakable resolve he thought had been buried long ago. This small, fragile being had placed their safety in his hands. And Hale, the man who had survived countless battles and endured endless loss, knew he could not fail. He prepared a small room for them to rest, securing it carefully, checking every lock, every hatch. He gathered blankets, prepared more food, and even cleaned the tools, his movements methodical, almost ritualistic. Every action was guided by a single thought: Luma must be safe. As the small child curled up on the blankets, stayed nearby, his hand resting lightly on the edge of the cot. He had no idea what the universe had planned, what forces were closing in, or why Luma had come to him. But he knew one thing with certainty: for the first time in a long time, someone needed him, and for the first time in a long time, he would not walk away. The stars outside the station shimmered faintly, indifferent and endless. But inside, a quiet human and a frightened alien had found something rare, a fragile moment of trust, a spark of hope, and the beginning of a bond that could change the course of worlds. And did not know it yet, but saving Luma would soon pull him into a storm far greater than anything he had ever faced. The quiet of Outpost 12 shattered the next rotation with a thunderous roar. Had just returned from checking the station's outer shields when the sensors screamed, multiple vessels dropping from hyperspace, moving fast and armed to the teeth. The red glow of warning lights reflected off the metal walls as the alarms blared a deafening warning. His stomach tightened. Something primal told him that these weren't ordinary raiders, they were professionals, cold and merciless. Rushed toward the dock, his boots clanging on the metal floor. Luma, still wrapped in the thermal blanket, followed closely, their small hand clinging to his. The child's glowing skin flickered faster than usual, a silent pulse of fear, and his chest ached seeing it. They found me, Luma whispered, voice trembling. Please don't let them take me. His heart pounded. He didn't yet understand why anyone would hunt this child who looked fragile enough to vanish under a strong breeze. But the threat was real and he felt a familiar edge, the soldier he once was, the man trained to act when the odds seemed impossible. That part of him, long buried under years of quiet, was rising. I won't let them, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. I swear it. Through the docking window, the silhouettes of massive black warships appeared, their hulls marked with jagged red insignias that made blood run cold. The station shook as the largest ship descended, its landing thrusters hissing against the metal floor. He felt the weight of inevitability pressing down. The universe had a way of showing up when he least expected it. The doors of the station groaned as they opened and boots hit the floor in heavy, deliberate steps. Space pirates, clad in armor patched together from 1,000 stolen ships, their weapons glinted in the dim light. A towering figure led them, a cruel grin on his face, metal claws curling from his gauntlets. We know the Starspawn is here, the pirate captain's voice boomed, echoing through the docking bay. Hand it over, human, and we may let you live. Felt his stomach twist but didn't back away. He stepped in front of Luma, his hand brushing over the blaster he hadn't touched in years. This wasn't about courage or glory, this was about protecting someone who had no one else. You'll have to go through me, said, voice calm but sharp like a blade. The pirates laughed, cruel and hollow, their footsteps echoing like the drums of doom. A human, you think you can stop us? One sneered, tossing a jagged knife across the floor which caught reflexively, feeling the cold metal in his palm. Luma clung to him, tiny fingers pressing into his arm. I am scared, they admitted. Their glow dimmed slightly, reflecting their fear, knelt for a moment, brushing a loose strand of glowing hair from their face. I know, he said gently, but I promise you I won't let anything happen, not now, not ever. The pirates surged forward. Blaster fire lit up the docking bay, sparks raining off walls and machinery. Moved with surprising speed, blocking, dodging, returning fire with precision that belied his years of supposed retirement. Every move was calculated, every action meant to protect Luma. He grabbed crates to hide behind, shielded the child with his body, and even when a blast grazed his shoulder, he refused to fall. Luma's small voice rose over the chaos. Go hide, but shook his head. You stay with me, always. The pirates pressed harder, their numbers overwhelming, their laughter filling the air with a venomous joy. Felt the burn of adrenaline and fear mix into something raw and unshakable determination. He fought not for himself, not for victory, but for the fragile life behind him. Every pirate who fell was a momentary relief, but the threat never ended. As smoke filled the bay, glanced at Luma. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting fear and trust at the same time. He realized then that protecting this child wasn't just an act of mercy, it was the only thing that made him feel alive, the only reason the universe seemed worth fighting for. Then, over the din of gunfire and crashing metal, a thought pierced him like ice. Whoever this child was, whoever they were meant to be, the universe had brought them to him for a reason, and whatever storm was coming, he would face it, alone if he had to. He drew in a deep breath, steadying his shaking hands. They want to take you, he muttered to Luma. They won't, not while I'm here. And with that, the quiet human on the lonely outpost prepared to face the impossible, for the sake of a small glowing child who had nowhere else to run. Heart thudded in his chest like a drum as the pirates stormed the station. The smell of burning metal and scorched electronics filled the air, mingling with the acrid smoke from their blasters. Sparks flew from the walls where shots had struck, and the metal floor beneath their feet shook with each step of the intruders. Luma huddled behind a crate, tiny hands clutching their glowing blanket. Their wide eyes followed as he moved, every step calculated, every motion precise. Didn't fight for glory or pride. He fought because this small being, trembling and fragile, depended on him. His old instincts, honed from years of battles and wars, kicked in. He ducked a sweeping strike, rolled past a crate, and returned fire with the calm accuracy of a man who had lived too long with death. Each pirate who lunged at him found their plan interrupted by his steady hands and sharper mind. Step aside, human, one of them snarled, swinging a metal staff. Caught it mid-swing with his forearm, twisting it and sending the pirate stumbling back. You first, muttered, breath steady despite the sting of sweat and blood trickling down his temple. He moved to shield Luma as another pirate fired a short-range blaster. The bolt sizzled against the crate had pressed the child behind. Sparks flew, but Luma stayed pressed to him, eyes wide with fear and awe. His chest tightened as he realized how small and fragile they truly were. He was fighting not just for survival, but for the right to keep someone alive who had done nothing but exist in this cruel universe. Luma whispered, voice barely audible over the chaos. Please don't let them take me. Their glow dimmed, pulsing faintly with fear. Swallowed the lump in his throat. I won't, he said firmly. I promise, not now, not ever. He charged, dodging a swing from a pirate's clawed gauntlet and knocking the attacker off balance. He grabbed another pirate's blaster, using it to fire a few precise shots that forced the rest to pause. For a brief moment, the chaos slowed, took the chance to drag Luma to a safer corner, pressing their small body to his chest. Stay close to me, he whispered, no matter what. The pirates pressed on relentlessly, laughing cruelly, mocking the human who dared protect a child. You're nothing, the captain roared, stepping forward with metal claws glinting in the dim light. A weak human against us all. Stomach twisted, but he did not falter. He looked down at Luma, whose tiny fingers clutched his sleeve. In that small, fragile grip, he found a strength he hadn't felt in years, a reason to keep moving, to keep fighting. The fear that had haunted him for decades melted into a fiery determination. You're right, he said quietly, almost to himself. I'm nothing, but I'm everything to them. And with that, he moved, faster, sharper, stronger than the pirates expected. He ducked under a swing, rolled across the floor, and took out two attackers in quick succession. Smoke and sparks filled the air, but his focus never wavered. Every strike, every movement was for Luma. Every breath he took was to keep them alive. Suddenly, one pirate broke through his defense, slamming him to the ground. Pain erupted through his side and blood trickled down his face, but he gritted his teeth, pushing back up, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing him fall. Luma's glowing eyes were wide with terror, and for a heartbeat he allowed himself to imagine the worst. But then he shook it off. Fear would not win here, not if he could help it. He raised his blaster one final time, aiming carefully as the pirates regrouped for another charge. You will not take them, he growled, voice steady even as pain burned through his body. The pirates hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough for it to catch his breath, long enough to glance at Luma and see their small body trembling yet still clinging to him. That was enough. That tiny trust, that fragile hope made every wound, every ache, every sacrifice worth it. Had never wanted this fight. He had chosen a quiet life to escape pain and loss. But now, protecting Luma, defending someone who could not fight for themselves, gave him purpose. And purpose, he realized, could move mountains or, in this case, keep a small glowing child alive against a storm of killers. The battle raged on, sparks flying, metal bending, screams echoing, but his resolve did not waver. He would fight until his last breath because someone's hope rested entirely in his hands. And for the first time in years, knew exactly why he was still alive. To protect the one being who needed him more than the universe itself. The echoes of battle still rattled in his ears, though the pirates had momentarily pulled back. Smoke and sparks hung in the air, a chaotic haze that made every movement feel heavy and slow. He pressed his hand to his side where a deep burn had cut across his shoulder. The pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the unease growing in his chest. Luma sat on the floor, their small body trembling, glowing faintly in the dim light. For the first time since they had arrived at the station, the child seemed hesitant, as if carrying something too heavy for words. Knelt beside them, his voice gentle. Hey, it's okay, they're gone for now, you're safe. Luma shook their head, tiny hands gripping the blanket, their glow flickered like a dying star. I did not tell you the truth, they whispered. Their voice cracked, and even the translator had trouble keeping up. His brow furrowed. What truth? He asked softly, worry tightening his chest. Luma looked up at him, their eyes wide, trembling, filled with an ancient sorrow no child should ever carry. I am not just a child, they said. I am the last of them, my people. They protected the balance of the universe. Without me, darkness will rise, star storms, destruction, everything. Their voice broke and felt the weight of it pressing down on him, suffocating in its enormity. Froze, a cold knot of fear ran through him. He had thought he was fighting to protect a fragile child, but this was something far greater. The small alien, no larger than a human child, held the fate of entire galaxies in their tiny hands. His mind raced, trying to comprehend it, and yet he could not. "You trusted me," he whispered, voice hoarse, "even though you knew." Luma nodded slowly, glowing brighter for a moment, their fragile hands reaching toward him. "You saved me without knowing who I am. That is why I trust humans, that is why I trust you." Swallowed hard, his body was exhausted, his wounds burning, but his heart surged with a determination stronger than anything he had felt in years. "I don't care what you are," he said firmly. "I don't care what they want, I will protect you, always, no matter what." The child's glow pulsed faintly, a rhythm that seemed to match the pounding of his heart. "They will come again," Luma whispered. "And next time they will not stop. They will use me to unleash power no one should ever touch. If they succeed, worlds will burn, civilizations will fall, the universe itself." Stomach twisted. He had fought wars, faced death countless times, but now the weight of responsibility crushed him in a way he had never known. He looked at Luma, small and trembling, and felt a fire ignite inside him, a need so urgent, so absolute that fear became nothing. He would not allow this child, this last hope of the universe, to be hurt, not by anyone. Luma's tiny hand touched his cheek. I am afraid," they admitted. Their voice was soft, almost a whisper, but heard it as clearly as if the universe had spoken directly. Knelt closer, pressing his forehead to theirs. "I am afraid too," he admitted. "But fear doesn't matter, not when someone's life, when someone's future depends on you. I will stand, I will fight, I will protect you, that is all that matters." For a long moment, silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken fear and hope. Then Luma spoke again, voice steadier, glow brighter. You are different, Hale. The universe, it chooses you because of what you did, because of your heart, because you saved me without knowing." Felt a weight lift, though the world outside was still dangerous, still alive with threats. He realized then that this child, this fragile glowing being, had given him something he had long thought lost: purpose. He was not just a mechanic on a forgotten outpost. He was a guardian now, whether he wanted it or not. Luma's small head rested briefly against his chest and held them tightly. Outside the station, stars twinkled indifferently, unaware of the storm coming, unaware of the fragile hope resting in his hands. And yet, within that small, the human and the child shared a silent promise to face whatever came together. Whispered, "I don't know what's ahead, I don't know if we'll survive, but I do know this: you are not alone, not ever." And for the first time in his life felt that even in a universe vast and cruel, there was a reason for him, a reason for hope, a reason to fight. Luma's glow brightened slightly, a tiny smile forming on their delicate face. "Then we will face it together," they said softly. And in that quiet, smoky room, amidst the echoes of battle and fear, two unlikely souls found strength in each other. A human who had lived in silence and a child who held the fate of the universe in their hands. Pressed his back against the cold metal wall of the station's engine room, every breath ragged, every muscle screaming in protest. Sparks from damaged consoles lit the room in staccato flashes, and the acrid smell of smoke and ozone made his eyes water. Luma huddled close to him, tiny hands clutching the edge of his jacket, their glow faint and trembling like a candle fighting against the wind. Outside, the sounds of the pirates moving through the station echoed in heavy, deliberate footsteps, a cruel rhythm of impending doom. Shoulder throbbed where a stray blaster shot had grazed him earlier. His body was battered, his energy spent. And yet he refused to fall. He looked at Luma, their small eyes wide and trusting, and something inside him surged with fire. This child, the last of the universe's fragile hope, was relying on him. Every ounce of pain, every wound, every trembling heartbeat mattered only because of them. "They're coming," Luma whispered, voice trembling. They will not stop." Swallowed the fear that rose in his throat. "I know," he said quietly, voice firm despite exhaustion, "but they'll have to go through me first." The pirates broke into the room with a roar, blasters raised, claws gleaming, faces twisted with cruelty. The captain led them, towering over the others, his metal-clawed hands twitching like a predator ready to strike. "Give us the child," he growled, "and we may spare your life, human, refuse, and you die here." tightened his grip on his blaster, the old weight familiar in his hands. His eyes met Luma. "Stay behind me," he said, "always, no matter what." The first pirate lunged, swinging a jagged blade, ducked, rolling across the floor and firing a precise shot that knocked the attacker off balance. Another lunged from the side but caught their wrist, twisting and sending the blaster skittering across the room. Sparks flew as it hit the metal floor and used the moment to shield Luma, pressing them close to his chest. "Go," Luma whispered desperately. "Hide." Shook his head. "No, I won't leave you, not now, not ever." The pirates laughed, a sound full of malice. "A human against us all," the captain mocked. "You're weak, you'll fail." His chest tightened but he did not falter. "Maybe I am," he admitted, voice low and calm, "but I am everything to them." The words seemed to hang in the smoky room like a challenge. He charged, dodging another slash and knocking the pirate back into a pile of crates. Blaster fire lit up the room in staccato bursts, moved with a strange grace honed from years of old wars, strikes measured and precise. But he did not fight for pride, not for victory. He fought for Luma, for the fragile hope that rested in their tiny hands. Every motion, every breath, every strike was to keep them alive. A pirate managed to land a blow, sending sprawling across the floor. Pain exploded through his side and shoulder. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to rise. Luma's glowing eyes widened in fear, and for a moment he felt the crushing weight of failure. But then he felt the warmth of their trust, fragile but undeniable, and it lit a fire in his chest stronger than any fear. "You will not take them," he growled, voice shaking with pain but carrying absolute resolve. "Not while I am alive." The pirate captain sneered, advancing with claws raised. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he squared his shoulders. He could feel every wound, every burn, every ounce of exhaustion in his body, but he would not fall. Not while Luma depended on him, not while the universe's fragile hope rested in his hands. As the captain lunged, fired a calculated shot, hitting the pirate's wrist and forcing them to stagger back. Sparks flew. The pirates hesitated for a fraction of a second, long enough for to glance at Luma to see the tiny glow of hope shimmering in their frightened eyes. That small, silent trust was enough. It was the reason he fought. It was the reason he would never give up. He braced himself for the next wave, for the final struggle, for whatever came next. Hale, the quiet human who had once sought only silence, now stood as a wall against the storm, a shield for the universe's last light. And even as pain and fear clawed at him, he knew one truth above all: he would protect Luma. Always, no matter the cost. The room fell into tense silence, broken only by the heavy breaths of a human who had become more than ordinary and the soft, trembling pulse of a child who held the weight of countless worlds in their small hands. The universe had chosen its guardian, and he was ready to stand, even if he was the last one standing.